And finally, new rule: if someone knows of a story that more effectively captures what's wrong with today's journalism than the sad saga of what happened last week at the Washington Post, they need to keep it to themselves, because it would be too depressing. If you missed it, the Washington Post recently got embroiled in a self-inflicted shitstorm when one of their best reporters, David Weigel, retweeted this joke. Every girl is bi. You just have to figure out if it's polar or sexual. Proving it is a joke. Thank you. The comedian who actually wrote the tweet called it a banal throwaway joke, which is exactly what it is. Throwaway, as in if you don't like it, throw it away. For eons, both sexes have made jokes about how the other is crazy, and no one but the perpetually offended thinks it means anything more than that the sexes get frustrated over how differently we each see the world. And yes, we relieve some of that frustration with humor and scene.
The perpetually offended is exactly right. I don't know why people like to live those lives like that. It's basically self-inflicted misery. Like, life is so too short to just be offended by every little thing. But a lot of times the reason why someone like a journalist will act perpetually offended because it gets them attention. And they want to become the story instead of reporting the stories. I saw that joke, and I think I heard kind of like about this story, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. But I did see this joke, and I did give myself a chuckle. FYI, if anybody wants to date me, I'm bisexual, not bipolar. Just kidding, I'm not available. Anyway, all right, let's get back into it.
Nevertheless, Weigel pulled down his retweet and wrote, "I apologize and did not mean to cause any harm." And that was the end of that. I'm joking, of course. The unlicensed daycare center that is today's Newsroom went apeshit. You see, the Post has another writer named Felicia Sonmez, and she's a lot. For example, she tweeted about Kobe Bryant's 2003 rape trial hours after his helicopter crash. And despite the fact that she says Dave Weigel is a good friend, she resurrected the tweet he had taken down with a screenshot and demanded to know what the Post was going to do about this unacceptable evil that must not be allowed to stand. Sarcastically writing, "Fantastic to work at a news outlet where tweets like this are allowed." Yes, can you imagine a world that allows jokes you don't like?
We don't have to imagine. We now live in that world. We now live in that reality. I actually do remember that too. She tweeted that whole thing about Kobe Bryant like right after he died. I didn't know it was her, but I do remember that making like a big deal because a lot of people were mad. Black Twitter was very mad. But again, she wants attention. She wants to be the story instead of reporting the stories. But let's continue.
Of course.
Because again, a lot of these journalists aren't journalists. They're activists and they have an ideology, an agenda they seem to push. They need to push that. That is first. Their agenda, their ideology is first before newsworthy stories. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's continue.
Of course, the leadership at the Post folded like a Miami condo, and
I'm sorry, did something happen to a Miami condo? I'm assuming something happened recently, like it collapsed or something? Too soon? Too soon? Fill me in the comment section below. All right, let's continue.
and suspended Weigel without pay for a month and denounced the offending retweet as a gross violation of their values. Free speech apparently not being one of them.
Has Bill Maher been living under a rock? When is free speech stopped being a part of journalism decades, like a decade ago? Like, where have you been living? Anyway.
Then a third Post reporter offered up the idea, of course on Twitter, because why do anything privately, that, hey, maybe everyone was overreacting and we should all just calm down. And then it was really on. Felicia demanded that the Post discipline him and tweeted about that. I assume she's tweeting about this right now. For days, she raged with the fire of 1,000 burning bras. Sending a gazillion tweets calling for more to be done against Weigel, mocking her bosses, attacking colleagues, and letting the world know how much the Washington Post sucked. And this endless bickering and infighting continued online in public view until the bell rang and they all went to 7th period. Now, note that I haven't yet told you what age Felicia Sonmez and her quarreling co-workers are. Why? Because I didn't have to. Because you can't imagine someone my age acting like this in an office.
That they do.
The New York Times just ran an op-ed entitled, "Why Are We Still Governed by Baby Boomers?" This is why.
But I would say that millennials is a direct result of baby boomers, or at least Gen X. And then, I mean, can you imagine the Gen Z babies, that generation that's coming? That's why I say America is collapsing. Like, if you think millennials are bad and you think Gen Z is worse, like, just imagine Gen Z right now raising children. I'm terrified. I don't know about you, but yeah. So I mean, you can blame the millennials, but we're the results of the generation before. So like, come on, take some accountability here.
Because too many millennials are overly sensitive, overly fragile, and have no sense of priorities. You know, I'm sure many boomers would love to retire. But they can't. They're like the grandmother who'd much rather be watching Judge Judy, but has to raise her grandkids because her own kids are too fucked up to manage it.
But again, if that grandma was a proper parent, that wouldn't be happening. So the grandma, this is a little bit on you too. I'm not saying that adults should blame the generation before or their parents, but hey, it's the same thing like feminists always say, like, men are so terrible, men are so terrible. Who's raising these terrible men? Women. But let's continue.
It's funny. You think my generation is an eye roll? Let me let on a little secret about the younger generations. No one wants to hire you. Your sense of entitlement is legendary, and, with notable exceptions, your attention span and worth ethic suck. Here's a story you never stop hearing around Hollywood. Unqualified little shit who has been here all of 6 months doesn't understand why he's not a producer yet.
Let me expand on that. Unqualified little shit blames the fact they're not a producer on their skin color, their race, their gender, their genitals, or their sexuality. I'm not a producer because of misogyny. I'm not a producer because of racism. I'm not a producer because I'm trans and non-binary. Yes, the entitlement is legendary. I live in a different country and they talk about it. But let's continue.
This Washington Post story had such resonance because it's behavior we all recognize. There is a war going on within the millennial generation. I know, because I'm friends with the good ones. But the crybabies, unfortunately, are still winning. They complain they haven't taken over yet. Well, stop complaining, because in many ways you already have. The fact that the Post's initial response was to punish not Felicia, but one of their best reporters for a silly joke shows that the kindergarten is already in charge. Today, June 17th, is the 50th anniversary of a very seminal event in American history. On this day in 1972, the Watergate break-in happened. And over the next 2 years, the Washington Post gave the world a masterclass in investigative journalism. I have to wonder how the Post's newsroom of today would handle that story, or how they're currently handling any story. All this time blubber tweeting over a retweet begs the question, don't you have anything better to do?
But I think it reckons back to another video or segment that Bill Maher said is that at one point, journalism was about the people because a lot of the journalists were from those communities. A lot of journalists was the working class citizens. But then journalists became an elitist type of position to have. It became less about the people and more about the elitism, the hierarchy, what it says about you as a person to be in that position. Reporting became more about rubbing elbows with the 1% in the bourgeoisie. It's not about the people anymore. And that's why you see more and more reporters making a story about them because they're the elite. Their values and their point of view is worthy of being heard because they're important. You know what I mean? And when it comes to millennial, I'm a millennial. I'm in the middle, slightly older part of the millennials. And millennials are fucking adults now. I don't know why millennials are acting like we're still children. We're not. I know a lot of millennials live in perpetual adolescence, but you're a fucking adult, act like a grown up. But it is like that. Like a lot of millennials I do not relate to. They're fucking, like he said, entitled, spoiled, fucking pompous, virtue signaling assholes that I do not get along with. And when it comes to work ethics, I was raised with really good work ethics. I was taught if you got hired to be a plumber or a table washer, you are the best fucking table washer in the room. But I work all day, every day, and I have people like looking at me side eye, like to me, millennials think being productive is some sort of torture. Being productive is like, oh, I shouldn't have to be productive. I should be able to just like lay in fields of lily and write about poetry and just dance and smoke weed all day. Life is so unfair. And it's like, I like being productive. I like working. That makes life good for me. But it's like the other half of my generation, they just don't see it like that. And it's very strange. It's like fucking, we speak two different languages. But anyway, let's continue.
Aren't you supposed to be reporters digging up stuff? Are there no more vital issues going on in America right now? This is why you're not in charge. Because if someone named Deep Throat called the paper today and wanted to meet in a parking garage, this crew of emotional hemophiliacs would have an anxiety attack and report it to HR that they didn't feel safe. If there is a silver lining to this story, it's that eventually the Post did fire Felicia Sonmez, so maybe there is a line that's just too much nonsense. But that generation needs to move that line much closer to sanity and find it much sooner. Because democracy dies in dumbness.
All right, guys, that was Bill Maher. Tell me what you think of he said, what I said. I think journalism died a long time ago. Democracy is crumbling. America's crumbling. But anyway, tell me, guys, what do you think in the comment section below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that button, get the notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you'd like to support this channel further, you can donate. My PayPal and Cash App link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, and subscribe. Another great way to support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop. Links down below and links to all the alternate platforms I'm on my socials, including my Twitter, all the ways to support me, and all the ways to contact me for business is always in the links down below. I also have a second travel vlog channel. I travel as a lifestyle. I live abroad. If you'd like to know where I am in the world, you can go to the description box below and also in the comment section. Hit the link, go subscribe to my travel vlog channel, and or follow me on my travel Instagram. My stories are usually what's most up to date. And you guys have an amazing day. Bye.